I take it back. We've got 5 people.
Okay.
So this is great. Hey, Camille, Dorothy, Kendall, how are you? You're hearing some interesting conversations. Welcome. We're going to give it a couple more minutes. You are a small and selected group. And given the nature of the conversation we're having, it's a wonky group. I consider myself one of those wonky people. So I am fascinated by this topic about how to get to really what are disparate data structures, disparate data models, one that speaks to people, that's your CRM, that's Salesforce, and one that speaks to the numbers and how you account for what you do and speak to stakeholders on the numbers. How do you get those talking to each other so your life is easier? We're just going to give this a couple more minutes and then we're going to rock and roll. And we just had a couple more people join us. Welcome aboard. Give it 1 or 2 more minutes and then I'm going to get going. I wish I had a good joke for you, but I'm a terrible joke teller, so I'm not going to do that. You got any jokes, Joe, as we wait?
No, none that I could say out loud, but no jokes.
All right, why don't we get this started? Hi, everybody. My name is Rob Layton. I am the Executive Director of the iMission Institute, and we're pleased to have you join what is, I think, the 5th meetup of the Connecticut Nonprofit Salesforce Users Group. That's a mouthful. And for those of you who are in Salesforce, we've also been anointed by Salesforce. So if you are part of the Power of Us community, you'll be able to, you can go log into Salesforce and join the Connecticut nonprofit community. It's actually the New Haven nonprofit Salesforce community that is blessed by Salesforce. So that's very cool. And we're happy to do that as we try to build the power of digital transformation for nonprofits across the state of Connecticut, because we see there's so much opportunity and so much power to doing good better and truly working smarter, not harder, with the use of technology. Today, as we talked, as I mentioned earlier on, for those, I'm going to call this somewhat of a wonky conversation we're going to have, because this is for those of us who like to get into the details of workflows and really are very frustrated when those workflows make work and they do nothing for helping us effectively serve the people we're trying to serve and advance the mission we're trying to serve. And so a lot of what happens in digital transformation is the ability to organize ourselves across an organization so that things are no longer siloed, that you have development with its data and you have accounting with its data, and you have services with 17, 18, 25 different programs with their own data sets, that we can begin to talk across the organization, get people working together in ways that we have not been able to work together as effectively, because technology has caused us to be siloed. And so now we can work together more effectively. There's been somewhat of a historic tension, and it's been more difficult to make the linkages between, on the one hand, relationship management, that's our CRM like Salesforce, and numbers management from the accounting perspective. They're very two different data models, right? And so we're figuring that out, and it's happening. And we have just an incredible guy here today, Joe Sabella from Bloom Shapiro. I'm going to let Joe introduce himself, but he is going to talk about, from his perspective, the opportunities to make the linkages. We're going to then spend some time with questions and answers with Joe to tease that out. And to the extent that we have time, I'm going to talk about how we think about stepping back, taking a clean sheet, and doing workflows that let us build these interconnections between people across an organization and doing it in a good way. So Joe, take it away. Let us know who you are, and you have the power to share your screen.
Excellent. Can you see my screen?
I see a blue screen. Yeah, perfect.
Okay, you can see the slide. Excellent. And just to save everyone from being occupied looking at me, I'm going to close my window, so my video is going to be off. Well, I'm really excited to be here, and I want to thank Rob for inviting me. My name's Joe Sabella. I'm a director with Bloom Shapiro in our advisory team. Bloom, largest independent CPA firm in New England. We have offices in West Hartford, Shelton, and Marlborough, Connecticut. We provide audit, tax, and a number of different advisory services. And we work with many nonprofits throughout Connecticut, the Northeast, and throughout the United States. So with that said, I'm really excited to talking about different technology and options for syncing Salesforce fundraising with nonprofit accounting software. So really, the goal today is to introduce different ways that technology can help sync your finance, your development team, and really how that can benefit the organization going forward, to make plans for, to improve on the mission. We'll talk about the different information, the three different ways that information can flow out of the Salesforce nonprofit success pack into your financial management system. Salesforce is a database. It's the master system for tracking your donor information, gifts, pledges, grants, all of those records. Your financial management system, as Rob mentioned earlier, it's also a separate database, which stores information and records. So to manage the day-to-day business operations. So we'll talk about different ways that those systems can work together. The three areas we'll talk about: manual data entry, export, import file, and then the best of breed, which if you're using Salesforce, you may have a good understanding, Salesforce being a best of breed product solution. And then from there, I want to take a little bit of time and introduce everyone to the Salesforce accounting ledger, which was just offered, it just came out this spring. And then we'll end off really talking about, if you're looking at different integration options, what should you be taking into consideration, and what should you be on the lookout for as you go through and start reviewing and if you do prepare to implement. So, from an information flow option number one, manual data entry, it's data duplication. You're re-keystroking existing data. You're doing work, the same work over. So again, you're doing this over, continuing to re-keystroke your information. Issues that can come up with data duplication, well, it's inefficient. You know, instead of being a data entry person, you could have your finance staff doing more important work for the finance team, for the mission of your organization. And then, you know, with humans getting their hands on activity, that there's always you know, a chance that there can be human errors that can make it more difficult, whether it's through reconciling or providing appropriate information. When we look at manual data duplication, you know, there's an increase in labor cost, which, you know, nonprofits may not necessarily think, okay, you know, we're using a system, we have to re-keystroke everything. But how much time are you spending entering information into the system? How much you know, is it taking longer for you to have to reconcile your accounts at the end? There are hard cost dollars, you know, that go into that. You know, another problem with manual data entry is you lack that 360 real-time visibility. You're playing from behind, you're entering your data into the system. You're not able to look at information in real time that you can share, you know, with your key stakeholders. You're not able to see information, you know, that can make you make quick decisions, or to make decisions looking ahead. Again, you're playing really from behind. And what that can lead to really is, you know, a lack of synergy between the development and the finance team. You know, really the goal is, you know, to be able to, you know, have your finance team work on more important things, and really to free up your development team to have more time, you know, to fundraise or to go after grants, to really go out and spend time in engaging their donors. So really, you know, this is really an inefficient way to take data from one system to the other. The second option is the ability to export and then import data. So, you know, with Salesforce has really strong reporting capabilities. You can create reports that you can generate in Excel or CSV that can be used to, you know, to be able to import as a journal entry into your financial management system. You know, it's more efficient than manual data entry, but it's not seamless, and there's still, in many cases, you're going to have a finance person who's going to be massaging the data. What are the columns that I need to add? You know, what are the credits and what are the debits, and what accounts are they going to before they're going to be able to, you know, really to, you know, be able to add and import that information into as a journal entry into the financial management system. So that's also prone, you know, to human error. Mistakes can happen, which can cause time, which can increase labor cost. One of the things I've talked to different nonprofits about is, what type of information do we need? What do we want to share? What do we want to add? You know, I've talked to some organizations that they just want to do summary reports that they can import into the system, where we have other organizations that want full detailed reports. So, you know, this is something to take into consideration. Summary is easier to import, but you lose out on the detail especially, and that can be an issue when you're dealing with reconciliation. And then again, like manual data entry, this isn't a flow of data from Salesforce into your financial management system. So again, you really are missing out on the lack of real-time visibility for all the stakeholders involved, for people to have a 360 view of you know, donations and pledges or grants coming in, and what type of an impact that will have. The third information flow, it's a seamless Salesforce integration. So really it's one source of data which ensures data accuracy. Salesforce is a best of breed solution. So, it is the best donor management CRM system available. There are many applications that have API integration with Salesforce. You may be using them now, so if you have like an online donation page, form that can integrate and can automatically populate information, into Salesforce, that is going to, minimize, data duplication. There are different marketing tools for nonprofits and deduping data for accuracy. So there's a number of different applications that Salesforce has that can be added and acts as a best of breed. So when you have that best of breed and you have accurate data, what you're looking at is a decrease in labor cost. You're eliminating or significantly eliminating the potential for human error. And there's hard costs associated with that. More importantly, you're a visionary. Your finance team's they're going to be visionaries. Instead of constantly doing manual activities and entering data, they're going to have this information flow in freely to a financial management system. So they're able to spend their time doing, more important activities. The real-time visibility is important to see where you are, where you stand with budgeting, with different reporting capabilities. So having the ability to see things immediately. We have a lot of clients and a lot of organizations out there that, they want to make their decisions now. They want to see visibility into their system. They want to be able to look and to make decisions to look into, what are the decisions we have to make in the best interest of, of our nonprofits. With integration, there are workflow capabilities and security that you have, you have to consider. Who has access to the information? Are there approval processes that can be involved? Those are things that can help to streamline, the integration and to make it more of a flow with your development and finance team. And then really, really the goal is, can we get our development team and can we get our finance team to be transparent with each other, to work together, to free up time for different members to do the activities and to do important work, for the organization. So, think of the development team being able to spend more time with their fundraisers or planning different events or going after more grants. And then for your finance team to really be having accurate information that's up to date and really allowing them, to work on, more important activities. So, with that said, one of the things that I wanted to bring up and share is a brand new offering that Salesforce has. They introduced this spring a offering called the Salesforce Accounting Subledger. It is for nonprofits. It's installed on the Nonprofit Success Pack. So you have to have access to the Nonprofit Success Pack for it to work. And really what it does is it's going to help prepare your information in Salesforce and prepare it to go into your accounting system. So, a lot of times your development team talks one language, pledges, gifts received, where your finance team is talking about, well, what are the debits and the credits, and what is the revenue recognition? So instead of I guess it's instead of having your development team have to learn the debits and credits or so, the accounting subledger from Salesforce, based off of mapping and really based off of your gift acceptance and accounting methods, it's going to create a subledger. The subledger you can then import as a journal entry into Salesforce. So a finance person would be able to do that. So, it's taking the information and putting it in a way that, your accounting software and your finance team will understand and to be able to execute in your financial management system. I do want to stress, and I do have it bolded, this is not a replacement for your financial management system. You still need a financial system to do your day-to-day operation, your financial reporting, your budgeting, to pay your bills and all the other activities that your finance team would have to do. This is just a way to really streamline the operation, have your development team and your finance team talking the same language. The beauty of the Salesforce accounting subledger is that it has templates for, I believe, at least 9 different financial management systems. So through the financial report, through the reporting of Salesforce, you can generate a report in Excel or CSV, and it will track the appropriate columns needed for whatever financial management system you're currently using. Again, whether it's like a QuickBooks or Sage Intacct or a Blackbaud, whatever system you're using, it has the ability to track what appropriate columns you're going to need for your finance team to be able to import it. So you have a little bit of flexibility, with the Salesforce, accounting subledger. I think I've mentioned this maybe 4 or 5 times, but what are the benefits? Synergy, improved working relationship between development and finance, not working in silos, being able to focus your time and effort on what's going to make your organization successful and to grow. Not having to do manual activities, to streamline them where it makes sense from both a fundraiser's perspective, but then also from a finance person's perspective. As we talked about, there are hard costs in entering gifts manually. This has the ability to significantly decrease your labor cost. And for that matter, risks associated, with your gifts, making sure everyone's on the same page. You're going to see accuracy, better accuracy in reporting, being able to document those gifts. So what is received, and then to be able to determine your revenue recognition, allowing your team to have more access, allowing the organization to have real good information. And then, like I mentioned earlier, there are a number of different templates that the Salesforce accounting subledger has, so it can fit all different types of financial management systems. So you would be able to import a file as a journal entry into the system that you're currently currently using. So again, this is a much nicer way to take information, to share information. It's a number of steps above exporting and importing, because you don't have to massage the data, and it's significantly going to significantly improve those day-to-day manual data entry, and really, again, with the goal of building synergy between both groups. When you think about Salesforce and this accounting integration capabilities, I think there are a number of things that you really have to consider and you have to think about. We're focusing really on the synergy between Salesforce and your financial management system, and that's just one piece of the overall. Are you using the right financial management system? That's a question you want to ask. Are you getting the reporting requirements and the nonprofit fund accounting capabilities? One thing you might realize is through this exercise, we're really not getting what we need out of our system. So, you want to look and see, we want to put the effort and time into integration if we don't have the right solution. Another option, and every nonprofit is different, have different requirements in giving and different gifts that they receive. What's the volume of those gifts? If you're a shop that has, a handful or some donations that come in on a daily or weekly basis, there may not be a great benefit, to integration. If you have medium to a large number of gifts on a regular basis, then there's a significant benefit to looking at one of our integration options. It's always great to take a deep dive and to try to understand, well, how many hours am I spending on data duplication, or how many hours am I spending on manual or on export and import capabilities? What are the labor costs? What are the hard dollars? How many hours a week? How many hours a month? And what can, what is the return on investment if we were to use, an integrated option? Do you have access to real-time information now? If you don't, is that important? Why is that important? This is an area where you want to bring your executive team and bring your board members in, and to understand what are we really trying to do and what are the benefits to having real-time information. So that's very important. And then one of the things that, I've spent most of the time today talking about, how Salesforce integrates with a financial management system. Is there a benefit to having bi-directional sync, so that true 360-degree? Is there information that your financial management system can sync with Salesforce? Maybe if you're looking at grants, or maybe you're talking to your donors and you need to see the status of where projects are for a project that one of your donors has funded. So with integration, there are those capabilities really to have that bi-directional sync between Salesforce and your financial management system. And then so you're starting to think, okay, this could make a lot of sense. What do we need? What do we need to do to make this successful and to really maximize the solutions? First thing you want to do is you really want to identify, multi-department team members. They're going to be needed. This isn't a siloed project. This isn't just specifically for the finance team or specifically for your development team. You need to have members of your finance, your development team. If you're fortunate to have an IT department, to talk about this and to really understand how this is going to benefit everyone and how this is going to look. With third-party applications for Salesforce, or with the Salesforce accounting ledger, you can do the implementation by yourself. I would strongly suggest, and Rob's probably shaking his head right now, I would strongly suggest not doing that. You really want to have a trusted advisor or a consultant who understands your organization and wants to and knows the best way to maximize the system for you. I've seen times where we've had, I've known of organizations that try to do the implementation themselves, and it becomes a mess. It's not effective. They have to start over again. And quite frankly, they're spending time outside of the important factors of what they should do. So always have a trusty advisor or consultant to work with. When you're looking at the different options and trying to gauge what makes the most sense for your organization, understand how it works. see a demo, see multiple demos. I would personally suggest, you wanting to maybe have objectives. This is what I would like to see in a demonstration. Ideally, having the company salesperson provide a demo, but also having an implementation member there so you can really understand and ask those underlying questions, make sure that it would be seamless. It's an important time to really, to identify, what are your gift acceptance policies, what are your accounting methods, and how do we go about processing that? Again, this is where having a trustworthy advisor is going to be incredibly helpful. And also it's a way to look and say, are we doing it the right way? Does this make sense? Do we need to tweak it or need to make changes? So again, those are kind of some of the things that you should be taking into consideration when you're looking at the software. Also, looking to integrate solutions. Also, when's the best time to implement? It's probably a bad time to do it during your audit or maybe during year end where things are crazy. What is the best time available? Can we do it a certain period mid-year? Is it summer? When is that time period that you have where you're not going crazy with responsibilities and projects? So trying to figure out what makes the most sense. How long will it take? Is this going to take a couple of weeks? Is this going to take 6 months? Every organization is different. 6 months may be a long time, but really understanding, and really having a gauge of, what effort's going to take place, and to get that information from the person who's going to implement it, to have a schedule and timing to help you make that decision. And then really finally, again, I've mentioned this and hammered this point a number of times. What are the costs associated? What are the, there's a cost associated with adding a third-party application or using the Salesforce accounting subledger. What are those costs compared to the lack of efficiencies, the issues that you may have down the road, with fundraising, with transparency with your donors or granting sources? What are those labor costs that are associated, errors and lack of real-time visibility? How does all of that stack up when you're trying to justify, moving forward with a system that's going to streamline your Salesforce to financial management operation? So, Rob, I don't know if there was anything else you wanted to add from, I mentioned, ask you earlier, from the Salesforce accounting subledger piece or so, if there's any additional information you wanted to share.
No, just a couple things. It is a paid, for those of you who are on NPSP, you may or may not be buying licenses. You have your 10 free licenses. If you need additional, you'll be purchasing those at a steep discount. Just so everybody knows that the subledger is in fact a paid license that Salesforce is charging for. It is, I think, starts about $2,000 a year for the license itself. So that's another cost. It can go up depending upon what you want to do with that. But again, it can be simple integration with QuickBooks. It could be complex integration, complex fund accounting, grants accounting with applications like Sage and Tax. So that's kind of the key. We do have some questions. Cynthia is, you have her a bit scared.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that.
In terms of the mountain that it feels like you set up about that this is a big venture, a big project. Is there a way to think about this in terms of taking steps to its integration? Have you seen that done? And if so, how does that get started?
Sure, and Cynthia, I'm real sorry. I didn't I didn't mean to scare you. It's me personally, and I've been working in the nonprofit space for a long time, and you have resources available, but you can't do everything at once. And what we try to suggest is continuing to build and to grow into it and to expand. So, to add different functionality, add different capabilities into the system, you don't have to do everything at once. So I just want to stress that, because a lot of our clients that we work with, we're setting them up to have certain functionality, certain integration capabilities, and then with the goal of eventually them being able to grow and to build into the system. So, I don't want to scare you off, and maybe Rob, if I can turn it back to you from, if you look at, if you're looking at if you're looking to change your software or to have an integration, it could be, it could be a couple of weeks, it could be a few months. Obviously, the more complicated you get, the more difficult it can be. But again, take baby steps. You don't have to do everything at once.
Yeah, an interesting story, Cynthia, that might help you out. So a small nonprofit, they probably have a dozen people in the nonprofit, obviously one accounting person, and one development coordinator. It wasn't even a full-time development person. They were full-time, just not a full-time development person in the role. And so they originally were running their entire operation out of QuickBooks, development as well. Every donation went in name for name for name into QuickBooks, okay? QuickBooks was the database of record. They then added a donor management platform that at this time was not Salesforce. What they then did is, and this gets to Joe's comment about the double entry, what they would do is they would enter every donation into the donor management platform, and then that would be the development person. And then the finance person would get a report coming out of that system and enter every single donation into the into QuickBooks. The reason they did it originally was because they needed a place to capture the donor information person by person. They now had a new system, and they didn't need to, they now had a donor management system. So the accounting system really didn't need to know the person. The accounting system, in some sense, didn't need to know the level of detail. In the process of migrating over to Salesforce subsequently, what they were able to do in Salesforce was run, and this gets the notion, they were able to run summary reports out of Salesforce. So much of the donation history was going in through online donations. Others were actually getting manually entered. But a single number, well, it's actually a single set of numbers, because they had different campaigns that went to different chart of accounts, and they were able to use a reporting system in Salesforce to match campaigns to chart of accounts number, run a report, and what used to be about 120 entries per month was reduced to 6 entries, right? So, and that was something that was able to happen very quickly, very easily, and everybody got excited. And this is kind of the important point about this process. Just getting results, some results fast, where people feel like they can be more productive, they can do for the mission more effectively, and not just talk about it in the abstract, but show them. But what was interesting, and it was somewhat of an organizational change, when we made that transformation, there was a great desire of the financial person to continue to put in every transaction. And they had to be invited not to do that. And invited is a soft word. They had to be told not to do that because the perception was that was really important. And for whatever reason, they thought it was, but organizationally, they determined that it was not. Since then, that organization is starting to look at the subledger and is starting to make moves to fundamentally transform. Let me take that back, not fundamentally transform, to make some changes in their accounting processes through the subledger such that the information that they need can just migrate over without that kind of reporting. They may or may not do that. They're assessing it. Again, what Joe was talking about, sit back and say, what's the cost of making the change? What's the cost of not making the change? And they're saying, okay, does it make sense to invest? And they're assessing that now, and they'll decide whether or not the subledger makes sense. So again, the trick here is don't think about integration as the silver bullet. Integration is a tool to being more effective. For some folks, integration is going to be the right thing to do. For other folks, integration is not going to be the right thing to do. And Joe is 100% right. If you're integrating with a lousy platform, if you, we have, there was another organization that was on a 1990s hosted, not cloud-based accounting system, and they got excited about the idea of integrating, and that would just been a really bad idea. Salesforce into a 1990 accounting system. So I mean in our view, you can step it, but recognize, like an accounting system is something you develop over time. You put the system in place. You can develop this point by point by point. It's a process that you need to keep working on over the course of time. Joe, any thoughts on that?
No, I mean, I think it's spot on. I'm gonna share my video again. I think you're spot on with that, and there's time and effort that goes in, and take incremental steps to move forward and just to get wins early and often. So no, I agree with you.
And, there's a concept of change now, folks, and it's this concept, people use the term agile, and it's try to take big projects and chunk them up. You can make some changes, get improvements, and move forward. You can't always do that. You sometimes have to take really big steps and really major change. But to the extent, and this is what the cloud offers, this is what the open source world offers, is the ability that you can take those smaller steps. You just have to be thoughtful about it, define a project clearly. And what I would encourage, you don't have to think about integrating everything in Salesforce with everything in your accounting system. Anybody who's worked with me is tired of hearing me say this, but it's workflow, 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 workflow. What are you trying to do? Is it donor information that you're trying to move over? Is it grants information you're trying to move over? Is it earned income information you're trying to move over? What part of that process needs to be cleaned up? And so a clean sheet approach where you sit down and actually map what's going on. Don't just jump into integration. Map step by step what you're doing today, and then sit back and to the extent that you have the skills, map where you want it to go, and then you can see how digital helps you do that. If we got any other questions today? You're a quiet bunch. Anybody have any other questions? So I'm going to ask one, Joe. When you've done this before, what are the if you were going to say key point of resistance in finance, key point of resistance in development, number one for each group, what would you say that is?
It's time. And it's doing things differently. So what's the time associated? How long is it going to take to do this? How hard is it going to be to learn how to do this integration and to make it part of our day-to-day operation? We talk to a lot of companies, a lot of nonprofits, and they know they're not necessarily efficient or using an efficient system. But you know, being able to, it's going through and spreading the time and having the effort to do it, and to going through with the implementation. Again, not trying to scare you off. There are, you know, implementation, you know, there's some time and effort that goes into that. You know, I think, you know, the other,
Just so, Joe, the flip side is the executive team has to make the space. And it has to allow for the time to actually get this done.
Agreed. And there has to be buy-in from the executive team to, you know, obviously to move forward with it.
Right.
It is actually funny, you know, it's, again, you know, you look at different solutions that are out there, and, you know, when you're looking to make a change or to do a different process, I've found a lot of times that we've talked to organizations that, you know, we want to make a change. The system isn't working, but we want the new system to do exactly what the old system did. And that can be kind of having that, you know, not saying to have an open mind, but just to be able to consider different options and ways that you can do things differently, because, you know, different technology is going to allow you to do things that you maybe never thought you would be able to do. So those would be definitely for me, in my mind, the areas that, you know, doing. And then, you know, let's face it, you know, you got your work schedule, you're busy, you have a lot of things going on, and, you know, having that time, you know, work is important.
Okay. Thank you. I'm going to kind of wrap this up a little bit early, maybe, unless people have questions. But I want to give you all some ideas about whether your organization is right for taking some steps forward. And I call this my Dino diagnosis tool, whether you are using yesterday's DNA, yesterday's thought process to go into the world of digital, right? And so there are a couple things that I want you to think about that are symptoms of a problem that we can rectify. That is, if lots of people have spreadsheets that need to get handed off from one person to the other, that's indication that there's opportunities for change. Forget about number 2 for right now. You have a mindset that list is owned by a function, and that nobody else has the right to see that information. Finance, development, you can often find people that we own this information in our area. You don't have any rights to it. If you have that kind of mindset, that's a cultural change, but it is definitely a symptom of a problem. You need to make that organizational change, because that data, that information is owned by the organization in the interest of its mission, not by any one function. Confidentiality aside, and we can deal with that separately. There are other reasons that people say, I'm not ready to go. And this is, again, the fact that in the old days, you couldn't be agile. You couldn't take small steps as easily. So there was this notion, oh, the big upgrade's coming out in a year. We can't do anything until that next big upgrade. You don't need to worry about that anymore. This systems upgrade pretty seamlessly, pretty nicely, and you should not worry about the upgrade. The other is finally that people stop doing things because we can't do anything until we have the big data cleanup, but we don't have the time for the big data cleanup, so we don't do it, and so it gets pushed off and pushed off. So you know, those 4 bullet points, if you find those are active in your organization, lots of spreadsheets that are used by one person, and not with data not easily going from one person to another, and they have to use spreadsheets to work. This notion that I own the data in a particular function, waiting for the big upgrade, you hear that conversation, waiting for the next big cleanup. If you're hearing any of those sentiments, step back, take a deep breath, and say, yeah, let's take a fresh look at what's going on here. With that, Joe, do you have any sign-off words?
No, I think that's great information, especially the spreadsheets and handoff. Yeah, if you're working outside of your systems, you know, that's not effective. But no, I appreciate having the opportunity to be here and to talk. I hope I haven't scared everybody off on, but I'd be happy if anyone has any, follow-up questions or thoughts, they can reach out to me. But I've enjoyed the time being on here, and look forward to hopefully connecting with you in the future.
Yeah, Joe, can you just give us your contact information?
Sure. Actually, I had let me.
I'll let you reshare.
Can you see my screen?
You know what I'll do? I'll just email it out to everybody who joined.
Here we go. If you
Okay,
can.
perfect. All right, folks, be safe. I hope everybody's well. I hope everybody's happy. Let's stay connected, and let's continue to advance doing good better using the power of digital. Thanks all.